Let's review the vocabulary from Unit 3. Parallel lines are lines that never intersect. They are in the same plane, and a helpful way to remember that is think of they go in the same direction. Giving yourself a picture of this will be helpful as well as including the symbol. So a picture of parallel lines is like this, and the symbol for parallel lines is really important too because we use it to abbreviate. It's like the double L like you find in the word parallel. Perpendicular lines also have a symbol. It's that upside down T. Let's talk about how skew lines are like parallel lines. They also never intersect. However, they are in different planes, which means they go in different directions. It's harder to draw that picture because that's a more three-dimensional type of picture where you see skew lines, where you might have one going forward and back and then one going up and down, but as part of a three-dimensional picture. Perpendicular lines intersect at a right angle. And remember, a right angle is 90 degrees. Give yourself a picture of what that looks like. Put that little right angle mark in the corner. Parallel planes are planes that never intersect. Imagine something three-dimensional, like a box, and the planes of the box that never intersect, you might consider being the top of the box and the bottom of the box. Those are parallel planes. Distance from a point to a line is the length of the perpendicular, but I'm going to use the symbol for perpendicular, segment connecting them. So draw yourself a picture of what that looks like. You have a line and a point that's not on the line, and the distance, we go at a right angle. That segment right here, we want the length of that segment. Slope. Remember, lots of ways to say slope. Rate of change is a popular way. Rise over run. Change in y over change in x. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 is the formula we often use, and we use the lowercase letter m. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Point slope form, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, and standard form, ax plus by equals c. In all of these forms, or the first two anyway, where there's slope involved, the m represents the slope, the number that's multiplied in front of the x. That's the slope. In also these forms, we have the point that we start at, either the y-intercept, which is the b in slope-intercept form. This is the y-intercept. That would be our starting point where we start our graph, where we start to graph the line. And in point slope form, the point. So the x and the y, the x1 and the y1 rather, is the point. Also where we start to graph. Then we have the transversal. This is a line that intersects other lines in different places. Now, when we draw the following corresponding angles, alternate interior, alternate exterior, consecutive interior, we're going to show what the transversal looks like. But it doesn't have to be with parallel lines. Here are two lines that I purposely made look not parallel. The transversal is going to be the line that crosses those two lines, that line in red. See, it crosses here and it crosses here in two different places. The corresponding angles are angles in the same position. If the lines are parallel, so if we're using parallel lines, then these angles are congruent. So parallel leads to congruent. So if we have parallel lines, transversal, these are the corresponding angles, or they're one pair anyway, and those are congruent. Alternate interior are between the lines and on opposite sides of the transversal. Again, if we have lines that are parallel, then these angles are congruent. So in a picture, alternate interior will be like this and this angle. Alternate exterior are not between or outside of the lines that are being crossed, whether they're parallel or not, but alternate still for opposite sides of the transversal. So we have our lines. Exterior would be like this one and this one. Finally, consecutive interior angles. Interior, so between the lines. Consecutive being on the same side of the transversal. And here's our picture for that. This guy and this guy. Notice I used a different angle mark because those are not congruent. I forgot to write up here for alternate exterior, if our lines are parallel, then these angles are congruent. Down here, make a note, if the lines are parallel, this time the angles are supplementary. That's a big difference between being congruent. So maybe this angle up here is 100 degrees and this angle down here 80 degrees. Supplementary, meaning they add up to 180 degrees. Have fun reviewing.